and welcome to Money Live News and Views. I'm Devashish Basu. Business houses are not allowed into banking in India because of fears of connected lending, exposure between banks and other businesses, and lack of supervisory mechanism for large corporates. But in November this year, an internal working group of the Reserve Bank of India recommended that large corporate and business houses may be permitted to get into banking only after necessary amendments are made to Banking Regulations Act 1949 to address all these concerns that I talked about. This set the cat among the pigeons. Bankers, academics, economists, and most importantly, former governor, that is the RBI governor, and so-called public intellectual Raghuram Rajan all jumped in to deplore the idea. Interestingly, India had already allowed business houses to enter banking in 2013, and that's part of the guidelines issued that year. Later, of course, while announcing licensing norms for small finance bank, it explicitly banned business houses. Now, from the US robber barons of the earliest 20th century to frequent bank failures in India before the sledgehammer of nationalization of 1969, I have seen a wide array of reasons, some relevant but mostly irrelevant, to ban business houses from banking. Raghuram Rajan says it will further exacerbate the concentration of economic and political power in certain business houses. Now, this can be easily handled by denying the mega business houses banking licenses. Now, let me clarify. I'm neither for nor against the idea, but we definitely need to go beyond merely fear-mongering and generalities, so I want to point out the far bigger issues that need to be discussed. First of all, who needs a bank when there are PSBs, that is public sector banks? The irony is that shady business houses in India already have a free run for public money from the public sector banks. From Vijay Mallya's Kingfisher to Jatin Mehta's Winsome Diamonds to Nirav Modi to Sandesaras of Sterling Biotech to Singles of Bhushan Group to the SR Group, the list is long. These businessmen did not need to own a bank. From State Bank of India to Punjab National to Syndicate Bank to Andhra Bank, they could easily pick up money from the dozens of PSBs. How much money has been looted in this manner? A former deputy governor of the RBI estimates that bad loans of PSBs is 20 lakh crore. Most of it, I sense, due to corruption and behest lending, or phone banking as the Prime Minister likes to call it. Nobody pays a price for this charade. Not the promoters, the bankers, the RBI officials, finance ministry bureaucrats or politicians. Nobody pays a price for this. Let's look at this number from a different perspective. IndusInd Bank has about 250,000 crore in investment, advances and other assets. If say 8% of this were to go bad, among the worst numbers today, 20,000 crore would have to be written off. It would require 100 such banks to match up to the bad loans of the PSBs. Now, even assuming that the public sector bank loans, bad loans are about 8 lakh crore, we would still need about 40 largish banks like IndusInd to match it. If the RBI has licensed just 4 new banks since 2001, and assuming that it does another 4 in the next 20 years, and all of them grow to become as big as IndusInd, we are talking about a bad loan figure of 80,000 crore. In October 2017 alone, the Modi government announced 2.11 lakh crore of taxpayers' money to be injected into PSBs. You can see what we should really be debating. The worry, concern and ills of Indian banking is not about business houses getting into banking and those banks falling like 9 pins. It is the deep corruption of meddling politicians, crony capitalism, zero accountability, stark regulatory failure and repeated recapitalization of PSBs with our money. Among the defaulters have been 4 parliament members, 2 of them Padma Shri awardees. But of course, to exemplify the evils of business houses owning banks, we would invoke the bogey of failed banks of 50 or 100 years ago, at a time there was no proper banking regulator and certainly not a regulator with draconian powers. Once again, I'm not advocating that the business houses should be given banking licenses, but curious and observant readers have always asked, aren't Hindujas a business house? And wasn't Times Group, which got a banking license, also a business house? And Hindujas have a very controversial record and extensive overseas unlisted operations. That doesn't sound very good for for somebody to get a license, a banking license. It does seem hypocritical to me that we avoid discussing how Hindujas got a banking license while going blue in the face about the internal working group suggestions. But then that would mean discussing how RBI's licensing norms could be bent to suit some issues that celebrated economists don't want to bother with. The second major issue is, of course, RBI's extensive powers, and we need to think, what are we worried about? The RBI licensed, as I said, just 4 new banks over 20 years. So is it logical to assume that if the policy does change and all and sundry applications would get a license? Not at all. And having got one, after much filtration and after much assessment, a Tata or a Murugappa bank would run amok. If the RBI does its job well, and this is of course very, very critical, no business house can do much damage. And tight supervision would attract only the best of names. Shady ones would not even apply, knowing that they cannot mess around. So the issue is not so much about ownership. Reminder here, the looted PSBs are owned by us and the government, as the quality of licensing and supervision. Where do we stand on that? The RBI has enormous powers. Under Section 35 of Banking Regulation Act, RBI inspects banks' books and can examine on oath any bank director or employee. Banks are obliged to cooperate fully. Based on RBI's recommendations, the central government can stop a bank from accepting deposits or even order the winding up. Under Section 36AA1, the RBI can remove a chairman, director, or chief executive or other officer or employee of a bank. Not only does the RBI approve the CEO, but it has nominee on banks' boards, the nerve center of all major decisions, which RBI is privy to. If needed, RBI can conduct a special audit. Its supervisory power over banks extends through a complex set of periodic returns and statements filed by banks on diverse issues. Now, if RBI does not use its powers well, banks run by business houses would of course be a menace. But that can be easily said about banks promoted by bankers too. Remember Yes Bank or Global Trust Bank? Indeed, if business houses are to be kept out only because RBI is weak and inept, we have a much bigger problem to deal with. And regulatory accountability is therefore what we should be discussing first, along with the accountability of the public sector banks. Thanks for watching.